So, guaranteed livable basic income. So, whereas the cost of living and rate of inflation in Canada continues to rise at an alarming rate, and homelessness and the lack of safe and affordable housing is a nationwide emergency, and ending homelessness in our city is a council priority. And whereas many residents of Newfoundland and Labrador are struggling to keep up with rising costs and to provide the basic necessities for themselves and their families, and whereas the city's Healthy City strategy aims to improve people's health and well-being by addressing the social determinants of health, and as such, the City of St. John's will work in collaboration with various levels of government sectors and community stakeholders. And whereas the City of St. John's supports and is an existing living wage employer, and whereas the Health Accord Newfoundland and Labrador, the blueprint, recommends that the province of Newfoundland and Labrador support provision of a basic income, a predictable, reliable, and adequate income, either for all households presently living in poverty or for targeted persons living below the poverty line, and that a province-wide guaranteed basic income, if feasible, is the preferred approach. And whereas a guaranteed livable basic income as an income security program would work in concert with necessary social services to better support low-income individuals while helping municipalities do the same. Whereas in addition to supporting people to live their lives with dignity, a basic income can help remove barriers to active community engagement, enabling individuals to participate more meaningful in society. Whereas municipalities represent an important voice in social policy discussions at all levels, they are often on the front lines, as we all know, working to ensure that residents and communities lead happy, healthy, sustainable, and productive lives. A federally funded basic income, complemented by other social support services, is well positioned to support municipalities in achieving this. And whereas by supporting residents to afford the necessary services provided by municipalities, the fiscal strain on local governments is reduced. A basic income could help municipal services remain sustainable and affordable for everyone. So therefore, be it resolved that the City of St. John's support the establishment of a guaranteed livable basic income by the provincial and federal governments. And be it further resolved that a letter from Mayor Danny Breen be sent on behalf of Council to the Prime Minister, federal ministers, and the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, calling for their support and implementation of a guaranteed livable basic income. So moved. Is there a seconder for that resolution? Councillor Ravencroft. Thank you. I'll just briefly speak to a few points and then certainly open it up for discussion of Council on the floor. This resolution is a call on the Government of Canada to implement a guaranteed livable basic income, ensuring that all persons have sufficient income to meet their needs. Poverty reduction is the umbrella here. Supporting our city's efforts to eradicating poverty, homelessness, and alleviating pressure that we have on our municipalities, and to fill the gaps in the failing social safety net. St. John's is not starting this conversation. This very day, Moncton is actually voting on the resolution to do exactly the same kind of resolution. The City of Halifax, with Mayor Mike Savage, has already been successful in putting forward the resolution. Victoria and many other municipalities and provinces, the province of PEI supporting. Extensive research, as was included in our package, has been prepared by Bruce Knox, who was, many may remember, was a former staff member here with our Healthy Living Strategy. He worked in consult with the Coalition Canada Basic Income Youth Network, and Ontario Basic Income Network, with input from municipal politicians and staff across the country. And of course, there was a report that was tabled about the benefits of a basic income. It was one of the key recommendations of the Health Accord Newfoundland and Labrador, which of course we know is certainly going to chart our way forward in the province. It works in line, as mentioned, with our Healthy City strategy, and we are a living wage employer. And finally, my last point that I would like to make on this before opening it to the floor is that Religious Social Action Coalition of Newfoundland and Labrador, which is a coalition of Jews, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, and others who are committed to ending the injustice of poverty, have been actively advocating for the City of St. John's support of a guaranteed livable basic income. The FCM, my final comment here as well too, is that FCM certainly have made a number of recommendations in regards to poverty reduction in 2017, many of which we've already implemented, including supporting Indigenous communities and municipalities, and many other things, boosting access to quality transit, public transit access, and so forth. And one of their recommendations here was recommendation number 7, exploring basic income guarantee models, of which FCM specifically recommends investigating, developing options for a basic income guarantee delivery in Canada, and about how this can benefit certainly municipalities right across the country. So I put that forward for discussion and comments from the floor. Thank you. Councillor Burton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, the FCM report in 2017 actually had a note about recommending that the federal government should undertake this process to determine the most effective ways to strengthen Canadians' income security under their basic income point in the report, and that they should directly engage local and provincial governments and clearly outline next steps on implementation. And that is, I guess, that sort of sums up the way I feel about this. I feel like we are discussing a resolution right now that has concepts, but the next steps on implementation and what this would actually look like is missing right now. And we got this in our agenda on Friday. It's a huge topic. I'm pretty well researched in the area of a GBI or UBI, but even then there are so many different ways that this could be done. So while I think it's really crucial that we consider poverty as one of the leading social determinants of health, and alleviating poverty is one of the main goals that our municipalities should have, and that we all need to work together to ensure that everyone has a livable and predictable income source, I do have some concerns on the resolution itself. First, I guess, and least importantly of the concerns is that there is a harsh reality that the provincial and federal governments only lend so much of an ear to council when we write them. So I believe that we must use our voice most effectively in areas where the city has a comparative expertise advantage. So on areas such as public transportation or affordable housing, that is where we have the expertise in delivering services that can help alleviate poverty. And delivering a benefit such as the UBI program that's highly technical in nature, where the provincial and federal governments have the staff, resources, knowledge, and expertise at their fingertips, and we don't have staff that work on this area. So I believe that we should be really careful when we weigh in on it. So then it becomes up to council to know whether or not this is a good idea. And I'm just not sure that we have had the time to have the discussions and, you know, just talk about it with staff and with council as a group on how this could look and should look going forward. So that's my least important point. The main thing in the meat of it is that I find it difficult to endorse a basic income plan without knowing the full details of what is being proposed, as I've sort of alluded to already. The blueprint report, which I read over the weekend, mentioned in the resolution, explains that the phrase basic income is often used to describe either a UBI, which is a sum paid to everyone regardless of income, or a GBI, aimed at low-income individuals alone. Either program could deliver really, really good and transformative results, but only if the policy details are aligned with the resources available on all levels of government. A UBI does, of course, have quite an upfront cost, and many proposals out there involve funding it through deep cuts to existing programs that deliver benefits in a targeted way to people who need them the most. So I'd want to know, for example, that what we were endorsing would not do that. A small UBI funded in this way would worsen all the problems that the blueprint reports aims to alleviate, in my opinion, and I'm sure that the people who wrote this report have thought this through. But again, it's a resolution that doesn't have as much meat in it as I would like. A GBI program can also create large work penalties, for example, that make it difficult for people experiencing transitory disadvantage to gain skills or re-enter the workforce. So there can be some unintended consequences on that side. Either form of basic income could be a huge step forward or a huge step backwards, in my opinion. The blueprint report authors, like I said, I think they're aware of these issues. But their report is tentative, it's super nuanced, and really directed at the federal government. And while it's a good report and I applaud the work done, I'm not convinced that our role right now is to try to push it forward. Because converted into a council resolution, it looks more like a blanket endorsement of basic income schemes. And I'm uncomfortable supporting the resolution without seeing the fine print of what we're throwing our support behind. Having received it in our agenda on Friday and had no time to really discuss it other than now, I simply don't think that there's enough time to do this really important concept the justice that it deserves. So I would be happy to see it referred to perhaps a future committee of the whole for a discussion amongst staff, and perhaps we could ask for a presentation from the authors of the blueprint report so that we could have a frank and open question and answer period where we consider how our advocacy can be best put to use in this area. And as the Deputy Mayor mentioned, FCM, MNL, there are many advocacy organizations that represent municipalities across the province and across the country. And I know that universal basic income is one of the sort of hot button issues right now, and it's getting a lot of discussion all across the country. And I think we should be part of that discussion because it is happening. We can't just pretend it's not. So that being said, I believe that we got to be careful in how we get involved in this and what we are putting our support behind, so that we can make sure that we're really aligned with what's going forward. So today, I'm not going to support the resolution, but I would like to, if this motion failed, I would recommend that we refer it to committee of the whole. That's my perspective, and I know it's complex, but I hope it was a nuanced response to a difficult question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Any other comments? Councillor Ridgely.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll say thank you to Councillor Burton because she said it a lot better than I would. Me personally, I just don't understand the whole concept of the law, and what Councillor Burton just said helped a lot. I agree with Councillor Burton. Today, I won't be supporting, and just right now, I think we can ask for a deferral and then have it sent back to the appropriate people, get the appropriate people in, explain it to me and the rest of the council, and then move forward. I know there's a benefit to it, but I just don't know, if the benefits and all the benefits and who is going to help and who is going to be hurt by it, because obviously if there's costs involved and everything else, upfront costs, as Councillor Burton said, people are going to have to pay for it. So, I'm asking for a deferral because I don't understand it, and hopefully down the road we can certainly send in a resolution to support it and go forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ridgely. Councillor Frye?
Thank you. Sorry. Was that it's been noted, deferral's been noted. Are we considering deferral, or are we continuing to?
There's the only motion that's on the floor right now is the resolution motion. Unless you want to make a motion.
Okay. He's not moving the motion. Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So sorry about that. I was thinking through what was happening previous to me getting the mic. So on principle and in practice, I'm supportive of the role of governments to provide a social safety net beyond ensuring public safety. It's government's foundational role in my perspective. I also appreciate there's creative policy work being done on this particular topic that may lead to the success of a basic income. However, I don't know enough, and I'm not confident enough to stand here as a councillor without fully understanding it. And the way the motion is written currently is that I agree with it, and that we should and that our higher levels of government should pursue it. The most I would be comfortable with is a resolution that calls for consideration of it by the provincial and federal governments. Right now, I understand the province had a motion a year ago, or more than a year ago, around putting an all-party committee in place. I don't know the status of that. I don't know if the federal government is doing any formal consideration of this. And to me, those organizations are really well positioned to do a comprehensive review, and one that us as a municipality are not in a position to do. So I would like to know the results of such a study before putting my own stake in the ground on it. I'm also hesitant with wading into something that's quite fully within the responsibilities of the federal and provincial government and doesn't overlap our jurisdiction. Yes, it has impacts as stated in the motion and in the attached document, but not knowing enough currently, I'm not willing to stick my neck out on it. And it was noted earlier, but for those who are going to, if this proceeds, I know there's some folks out there who are going to be quite disappointed with my opposition to this. I just wanted to note that we get this agenda on Friday. for consideration on Monday, and this sort of issue is gigantic and requires thought and research. So I would, as it currently stands, I am voting against. I would prefer deferral, and maybe I will make the motion of deferral and see what council's perspective is on that, so that there can be actual time to consider the request. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Proud. Any other comments? Councillor Ravencroft.
Thank you. So I'll throw a monkey wrench into this now. I'm in support of the motion. I've made that clear. I seconded it. I think my positions on GBI and UBI are fairly well known. I think this is a relatively critical point. However, I'm hearing what's coming out of this side around, from what I've heard in the discussion so far, there's an amount of opposition that's been presented to us based on the belief that certain councillors have not had adequate time to investigate the issue at hand. I don't think that's an unreasonable point. I think for something that's this complex, if people are looking to have more time to consider the issue at hand, then I don't object to that. So I will make the motion to defer.
Okay. All right. So a motion to...
I can second.
I'm sorry, Debbie? Councillor Hanlon? You seconding that?
Yes, I will second that.
Okay, Councillor
Yes,
Hanlon is
please.
seconding that. Okay, so now we go to the deferral. Is that correct?
No, it's Councillor Clark.
Can we
If I
speak
can
on
say
the
something
original?
quickly?
I'm just going to clarify with the city clerk. So we speak to the deferral only? Yes. Is that correct? So can we make a vote on the first one and then make a deferral? Or what, I'm just in terms of process.
Deferrals,
You need to vote on the deferral, motion to defer first, then you go back to the original motion. And I know there's some confusion about whether or not you can debate a motion to defer, but I think it's in order, I don't think it's in the rules of procedure, and our legal counsel may clarify that for us. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that, I forgot to put my mic on. We need to deal with the motion to defer first. And I know there's some question about whether or not a motion to defer is debatable, but I'd like to get some clarification perhaps from our legal department on that. I don't see anything in the rules of procedure that would offset us from debating that.
So seeing that there's no issues about the debate regarding deferral, are there any other comments on? Oh, Councillor Corab, thank you. Oh, Linda's, okay, our legal, sorry, I didn't see our legal online there. Okay.
I'm having a look to see, my preliminary understanding without checking the rules is that once you vote to defer, you simply defer. But I need to check the rules, so bear with me
Okay, thank you.
while I have one monitor.
I think also if council wishes to suspend the rules, if the rules are not in favor of debating deferral, you may wish to do that also.
Okay, we'll await legal advice at this stage of the game. Should we move on to other business, Ms. Bishop, and then come back to the deferral?
Perhaps that would be appropriate while
Okay,
I
if it's the
do
will of
that.
council.
And I'll email Ms. Chafe when I've had a look.
Okay, so if it's the will of council, we'll move to the next item on the agenda so that we can get our proper legal advice. Okay, thank you. So I just wonder if Ms. Bishop has had an ample opportunity to look at the issue of deferral.
Yes, I was just actually composing an email to Ms. Chafe, but there's nothing preventing the debate of the motion to defer, but you must deal with the deferral now before returning to the original motion if the motion to defer fails.
So comments can be made on the deferral as well. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Bishop, for that advice. Okay, so any other comments? Obviously, we put a resolution on the floor and a deferral, a motion to defer. Councillor Hickman.
Clarification, do you want to defer to committee of the whole?
to staff.
Do you want to
Yeah, what is,
defer?
The motion on my end was to defer discussion to a later date. I believe Committee of the Whole was mentioned as a place this could be done. I will be comfortable moving this ahead to the next Committee of the Whole. If it's better discussed at a regular council meeting, I'd be happy to defer to next Monday. I'm perfectly open to whatever legal and the clerk would suggest.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes, one second now. Councillor Hickman is still speaking.
Yeah, so
Go ahead, Councillor Hickman.
I could never disagree with the thoughts and the motion for this particular issue. Obviously, we want to see something to support people that need this kind of support. So it concerns me that we wouldn't have unanimous. So I think it's important that we do vote for deferral so that we can find out some more information, that we can get some more answers, and go into that next debate with some more information as to what it means, what that would look like, what the actual type of assistance would look like. I agree with that. That's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Councillor. But otherwise, I 100% would support such the original motion. But yes, I feel we should take some time and just think about it and have another discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Ravencroft. Oh, hang on, I better go around the floor here first because, Councillor Corab, my apologies. Councillor Corab, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was always under the impression that a deferral wasn't debatable, which is why I wanted to jump in just quickly. To me, it almost makes more sense to refer this to Committee of the Whole to get more information versus a deferral, but I'll let the city clerk make the call what that should be, but I think it's actually a referral. But anyway, either way, overall, I agree with the guaranteed livable basic income. I mean, how could you not? It is something I think technically out of our purview legislatively, but we obviously do play a role. We represent the same constituents. But similar to what Councillor Ridgely said, I fully acknowledge I don't know enough about this specifically. I'm fairly educated on it, but I would love to hear, who it would be from. I don't know at the Committee of the Whole setting. Again, supportive of the motion in general, but a little uncomfortable supporting something I don't have all the information on. I've always said on council, I want to have all the information to make sure I'm making, the best vote, the best influence I can have here, and I just don't feel like I have enough right now. So if this can be referred or deferred, whatever we want to call it, to a Committee of the Whole, whoever we think needs to be brought in to talk about this or whatnot, I think that's what we should do. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Corab. Anybody who hasn't spoken yet? Councillor Burton.
Yes, so I would just suggest a friendly amendment to Councillor Ravencroft's deferral, which is that we refer to a future Committee of the Whole meeting at a later date, and we can take that time to perhaps tee up some presenters or maybe ask some questions in advance that we want to look into ourselves by email or something. But I suggest that we refer to a future date, and during that time, each of us individually look into this as much as we can, and then perhaps make sure that at that meeting, the questions that we have can be answered, i.e. have the right people in the room to have that discussion virtually or otherwise. I'm sure the people at the basic income advocacy groups at the national level, there's a lot of people working on this issue, so I'm sure it wouldn't be hard for us to find somebody to give us a presentation and that we can have a good Q&A. And I'd also be interested in finding out where the province is on this and where the feds are on this. So this, if we take a little bit of time, perhaps return to it next month sometime, but just at a future date. So to clarify, my friendly amendment would be that we refer to a future Committee of the Whole for discussion.
Any other comments? I'll say one. Oh, Councillor Froud.
Thank you. I'm supportive.
Oh, yeah, one second, Councillor Hanlon. I'll come right to you right after Councillor Froud. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm supportive of deferral or referral to Committee of the Whole. However, I don't think as a municipality we're well positioned to fully understand this question, to have a fulsome understanding of it. I don't believe we'll get that in our conversations, but I'm willing to try.
Okay, Councillor Hanlon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to thank you for bringing it forward. It's a very important topic, and it's one that I think all councillors agree that needs to be addressed. I'm looking forward to more information. Just wanted to thank you for bringing it forward.
Okay, Thank you. I'll just say one final comment as well, too, and then you can close the discussion, Councillor Ravencroft, because of the deferral. I do want to mention that I'm not comfortable with leaving it myself personally, open-ended. I would like a finite time to address this. This is a very prevalent, immediate situation that we're having right now in terms of affordable living for individuals. So if it was to the next committee of the whole for discussion, because there is ample information out there, as has been discussed by many organizations that have put it forward, I would be willing to support it myself. However, leaving it open-ended to a future committee of the whole is something that I cannot support, because I think that we are in a time where it is extremely important to address this issue within our society. One thing, the other thing I would like to mention before turning it over to Councillor Ravencroft is that there is information about the fact that, you know, most Canadians do support basic income but don't want to pay the taxes to fund it. And of course, if you look at different reports, UBI Works shows how to pay for basic income without costing more taxes to Canadians. With contributions from the financial sector, fewer tax breaks for larger companies, and fewer subsidies used by the wealthiest. The plan would also have little impact on most Canadians and would lift 1.6 million families out of poverty, making life more affordable for 7.4 million people across the country. So that's according to the Canadian Centre for Economic Analysis. And I think it's important to just mention that as well. So I won't be supporting the deferral to an unknown date. I would support a deferral to the next committee of the whole, because I'm sure our staff are competent enough to be able to bring the information to the table that is readily available out there in regular sources. So, Councillor Ravencroft, that's my final comment. Thank you.
Thank you. One question then, is it possible to amend the motion that I made such that it's deferred to the next committee of the whole? Is that possible? And if Councillor Burton is... Sure. Yep. The next committee of the whole meeting would have been the 21st, but that's already been cancelled due to lack of an agenda. And I'm happy to see this push forward to the 5th. I agree, actually, that timeliness is important with this one. I think that this is an issue that, you know, for anyone who's experienced any of the insecurities that could potentially be solved by GBI or UBI, we know how important it is to be dealing with these things in a timely way. So I don't disagree with that point at all. And again, just to affirm a number of points I've heard here, I think that the original motion is great. I don't have a problem with it. I would cheerfully have voted for it. And the hope is that by referring this to the next committee of the whole, and allowing folks more time to gather information, to do some of their own research on this one, that hopefully we can develop we can get a majority on this one. I'm coming at it from that perspective. I have no bones about that. But I'm really hopeful that we can get this to a place that the benefits can be well understood by this council. I hear some of the other points that have been made, and you know, regardless of those, I'm just hoping that that's where this can end up with this referral.
Okay, thank you. Yep, Mr. Brinkley.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'd like some direction from council as to what is expected from staff for the next committee of the whole, because I'm certainly not, I don't have expertise in this subject. I don't think anyone on staff has expertise in it, where we would feel comfortable in advising council on which way to go.
Okay.
So, I mean, we could try and line up, we could investigate and see if we can line up an expert to come in either to present to council or provide information. Maybe that's the way we can go, but I'm just looking for some direction there.
Okay, Councillor Burton.
So, yeah, I agree with Councillor Froud that I don't think as deep as we dig into this, the municipality as a corporation, as an entity, we will not have the expertise to put together a coherent position on whether or not a UBI or GBI is a good idea. However, I do think it can be a political position that council holds. So I do think that that is where it ends up. Staff can assist us in developing perhaps a unified vision of what we want to advocate for by getting some people here virtually who can answer questions and have a fulsome debate with us around some of the policy implications that we're advocating for. So yeah, to City Manager's point, perhaps staff can do some work alongside Deputy Mayor Larry, who brought this forward and who knows the people involved in this, to bring forward a couple of folks who can answer questions and give a presentation on the issue. And I don't know who those folks necessarily are, but that is the role I can see staff providing. I don't see staff having the expertise to go off and develop a policy response to a GLBI or a UBI. So I believe that it'll have to be council who thinks about whether or not we advocate for this, and staff can assist us in informing our opinion on it. However, I still don't really think it is within the purview of the municipality to have that information, but again, it's perhaps a political position as opposed to a corporate one. So that's my 2 cents on that. And in the interim, you know, there are a lot of resources out there for councillors to do a bit of research on themselves and try to learn the different methods of setting up a UBI or GLBI. Yeah, and perhaps if the city manager has further questions on this, you can get in touch with council for some suggestions of people to reach out to.
And certainly, the time frame would enable council members themselves to do research as well as what staff could provide. Certainly, there is a plethora of information that is out there from a variety of different organizations, but certainly staff will be tasked to see if we can pull together something for that with this particular motion on the table. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
Well,
Are you
that's what
clear
I'm
on-
looking for direction on. Do you want staff to try and procure somebody to come in and give you guys some expert opinion on this? Or is it more of someone to come in and answer your questions as to whether or not you should be advocating and what sort of background has been done on a political level?
Yeah, it's complicated when it comes to advocacy because that's an individual or a council certain directive, so staff would not be able to tell us one way or the other in this nonpartisan issue. We've seen certainly committee members, people from all levels of government support this initiative and from all parties. So it's not a partisan issue. It's a discussion that happens certainly within a variety of different sectors. So whatever the city manager, I think that, you know, if we could draw together a few people who have some expertise in this particular area, I would think that that would be information for council. Councillor Ellsworth.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I know we're keeping going in circles. The city manager's question was simple. Are staff being tasked with going away, finding resources and bringing them back to us? If that's the case, then the motion needs to be changed so that they have time to go do that work. Or it's a political decision and we're going to debate this in 2 weeks as council with us educating ourselves on the issue and making our political decision based on our own information. I think that's what needs to be clarified. For me, I think it's a political decision that we will debate ourselves. We need to go educate ourselves over the next 2 weeks and then bring it to committee to hold for discussion. Then out of that discussion, if we need more information or more discussion, then we can direct staff at that point. I think the biggest challenge here for all of us, there's no one here that disagrees with the concept of what we're trying to accomplish here. But because this was dropped us on Friday, with good intentions, obviously, and I appreciate your efforts, that we need to be better understood and better understand the issue before we can move forward. So my clarity is that this is a political decision. So therefore, Mr. Breen, I don't think there's anything for you and staff to do at this point, and that we need to educate ourselves to move forward, would be my clarity on this, for where I am.
And I would concur with your comments there as well. Any other additional comments on Councillor Corab? No? Councillor Hanlon? Oh, sorry. I can't see any hands there. So have you got a comment, Councillor Corab?
Nope, I'm trying to take my hand out. I'm struggling.
Okay. All right. No problem. Thank you. Councillor Hanlon, did you have any additional comments?
No, I'm fine, waiting for the information. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. So, Councillor Froud.
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Ellsworth's point that it's not staff's responsibility to help us understand this. If we are choosing to wade into other levels of government policies, then we need to do that as individuals.
Okay. So is it, Councillor Ridgely?
Me personally, I got enough on my plate now with Ward 5. I can guarantee it. And I'm not one bit interested in going away here, and I'll say it straight up, and studying this in the next 2 weeks to learn about it. So if it comes to a vote of council in 2 weeks, I can tell you that I will not be after reading up on it. There's way more pressing issues in Ward 5 right now for me, dealing with the flooding, FES, getting emergency services, dealing with stuff like that. So I'm not leaving here today and going studying this for 2 weeks to get my political opinion on it. When in here in this chamber, there should be no politics. We should be dealing with the city of St. John's and the residents, and that's where I stand on it.
Well, I will just make one comment on that this is an impact on residents. Basic living income is an issue for every single one of our residents in the city of St. John's. So I understand that there are some very physical issues, certainly in Ward 5 at this point in time. And political decisions have been made on many occasions in this chamber over the years. Advocacy is a particular point where you can advocate to other levels of government, but that is within the purvey of our council members.
Point of order, Madam Chair. We've gone away from what we're supposed to be debating here, and that's the debate on the deferral itself. City manager asked for clarity on what they were expected to do. I think we have consensus on what the clarity is, and I think we need to vote on the motion instead of keep on going around circles there. We're not following our own procedures at this point.
Okay.
I think discussion
I
is
agree.
closed.
And our final comment, Councillor Burton, before we actually cast our vote. Thank you.
So on the friendly amendment to the motion, I originally suggested committee of the whole so we could have a more fulsome debate, but I see that as a venue for having discussions amongst staff and council on issues that we're working on together. So perhaps we just refer this to the next council meeting instead, and we can get our ducks in a row and make a coherent 5-minute long statement of our positions and move on. Would that be?
The motion is put forward by Councillor Ravencroft. So Councillor Ravencroft, is that fine by you? It is.
We'll refer
So a
this-
friendly amendment to that motion to have the discussion at our next council meeting.
Yep.
And we are not tasking staff to investigate. And I appreciate the comments of everybody. I know this is a complex issue, but it is an advocacy issue, and it comes down to council members and being informed and putting it forward. So the motion is, City Clerk, if you could read that out for us, so we are very clear.
The motion is that council defer discussion on this resolution to the next regular council meeting.
Okay, do we have a mover? That's Councillor Ravencroft. And the seconder is?
Seconded by Councillor Froud. Is that correct?
No, I think it was Councillor Burton.
Councillor Burton.
Okay, and so we're going to cast our vote. Thank you, folks, for the conversation, the debate. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
City Clerk, I'm a yes for deferral. That was a long debate and I got kicked out of eScribe.
Okay, the city clerk can repeat that again for you if need be.
No, I can't vote. I got kicked out of eScribe, so I don't want to hold anyone up. So I'm a yes for deferral to the next council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Understood.
The same here, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hamlin, I'm no longer on eScribe as well. I'm resigning in, but I'm voting yes as well.
So supporting the deferral as well. So 2 supports for the deferral, and then the rest of us will vote. Thank you. Oh, and the motion is carried 10-0 to defer the discussion for guaranteed basic living income advocacy to our next council meeting. Thank you very much for the conversation, the debate.